You're listening to PumaPodcast.
How you talk about three basic needs, you say food, cloth, and shelter. But clothing has never been a development subject. You remember that someone needs clothes when you don't need it. But it has never been a development subject. No MDG, SDG development issue really talks about clothes.
Hello, ako po si Robbie Alampay, PumaPodcast, and in this very special episode of Teka Teka, we are in Delhi, in India, to meet one of the most inspiring organizations making a difference in the lives of hundreds of thousands. It's a story that starts with a story, a moment frankly quite shocking that ends up instigating a movement so successful and powerful. That movement received the Magsaysay Award, Asia's Nobel Prize, in 2015.
My name is Anshu Gupta, and I'm known as founder of Goonj. And Meenakshi, my wife, of course, is a co-traveler and the spine of it. And
Goonj is not just a social enterprise. It's a transformative model on how society perceives and acts on not just poverty and suffering, but on the other side of that coin, dignity, transformation, and hope. Let's start this story in 1998 in Delhi, where Anshu, then a young journalist, was riding through the streets early one morning. He was a photographer as well. He was in fact roaming the streets for stories. As he was driving, he found his motorcycle trailing a rickshaw. On it was a man, he would later learn the man's name as Habib Bhai, who was with his wife Amna Begum, and he also noticed one bizarre sign at the tail end of the rickshaw. Anshu has told this story so many times, it is vivid to his own wife, Meenakshi.
So he was basically driving around the city looking for good photographs, early in the morning. And he saw this rickshaw, the three-wheel rickshaw, where Habib Bhai was in front, he was driving it, and his wife, his blind wife, Amna Begum, was sitting at the back of this little rickshaw. She was wearing a colorful shawl, and he saw this thing written at the back of the rickshaw, which is what you see in the picture, and it says Laware/Dholewala, which means the picker of abandoned dead bodies.
Laware/Uthani Wala, the picker of abandoned dead bodies. Anshu followed the rickshaw and soon learned the story of Habib Bhai. This simple man with a blind wife, it turned out, was a regular contact of the Delhi police and village leaders.
Habib Bhai was paid 20 rupees, which is like $0.25, and 2 meters of white cloth per dead body, and he used to pick up that. So, and this was his full-time work, unfortunately.
He would be basically called by people, in the morning walk, if they see an abandoned dead body on the side of a park or a roadside or anywhere. And he would go and pick them up, and he would move the body to the nearest crematorium.
In winters, every 24 hours, he was actually picking up 10 to 12 dead bodies. In the summers, it used to be 4 to 5.
It is something that he's doing, of course, yes, to make his living, but he also is trying to give a dignified ending to people who have no family, because these are abandoned people. They don't have any family, no whereabouts, nothing. So for him, it was a very noble work to do.
Habib Bhai also had a daughter of almost the same age who gave a very shocking statement which translates into that when I feel cold, I hug the dead body and sleep. The little girl said that it does not trouble me, it does not turn around.
So the realization with Habib Bhai was his little girl, he had a 6-year-old daughter who spoke about how she didn't have enough clothes, how she would hug a dead body and all. So that sense of missing that basic and her desperation around cloth in winters, that signaled to Anshu that it's not cold because we all live in the same city. So we're all facing the same cold. But the absence of clothes is the difference between me in my home and somebody on the road.
So if I survive in the same temperature someone else dies, it's actually not cold but lack of clothing.
Anshu and Meenakshi began to see the invisible crisis that was right in front of them, in front of all of us.
How you talk about three basic needs, you say food, cloth and shelter, but clothing has never been a development subject. You remember that someone needs clothes when you don't need it, but it has never been a development subject. No MDG, SDG development issue really talks about clothing.
Clothing wasn't just about warmth or protection. It was about visibility and dignity. It wasn't just Habib Bhai. Anshu reflected on the countless other people he had encountered as a journalist. He recalled and dug up a photo he had taken back when he was a student journalist in college. He had captured an image of a man wearing potato sacks as an improvised jacket.
And he met him in the mountainous region where there was an earthquake. And this guy was asking for, basic clothes because he didn't have, in the winter of that place, he didn't have clothes. And he was desperately asking for that.
But it was also not just about warmth. Again and again, Anshu says clothes are in fact about how outward appearances do affect dignity and how dignity changes people's chances at life. He showed two pictures of the same man, months apart. In the first, the man in potato sacks just looks pitiful. And in the second, sometime later, he is in more conventional clothes. And suddenly, even our sense of hope for him changes. The smile on his face certainly shows his own sense of self-worth.
So it's not about clothing, it's about how we see the world. Like this person, we always say, does not have a chance to sit in our meetings. And if the person sits, he'll not be able to speak. If he speaks, we'll not listen.
Another image, another moment that underscored the importance of clothing came when Anshu observed a young schoolboy. Without proper clothes, the boy looked poor, hopeless, and invisible. But once he was properly clothed, people's perception of him changed completely.
This is the story of our language and lenses, because just by wearing a t-shirt, your hunger doesn't go away. If this kid is hungry, this kid is hungry. If this kid does not go to the school, this kid does not go to the school. But unfortunately, we perceive things based on this and this. This person has a much better chance.
Anshu and Meenakshi founded Goonj in 1999. Within 15 years, its impact had been so widespread and recognized, Goonj received the Ramon Magsaysay Award. The Ramon Magsaysay Foundation brought PumaPodcast along for a visit with Ramon Magsaysay awardees in India. We got a tour of Goonj's operations in Delhi, one of 8 centers they have across the country. They have been helping like-minded individuals and organizations from South to Southeast Asia, sharing their insights and model.
Goonj means echo. Goonj is a Hindi word that means echo of voice. So that was the whole idea that, the people just copy, people just replicate.
So Goonj means echo. And to that end, they have an expression among their workers and supporters. Goonj it. It can mean everything from just do it to pay it forward. Today, Goonj operates 8 centers across India with 1,200 employees and partnerships with more than 700 local organizations. They've reached hundreds of villages where communities earn materials such as repurposed clothes by themselves contributing to projects like building bridges and digging wells. In Goonj's model, in other words, people have to earn what they receive.
We are collecting huge amount of second-hand goods from the society, not distributing those as charity, but those things are going as a reward to people. So you work for your development and then earn it.
It's also worth stressing that as much as their products are not built around disaster relief, Goonj focuses on the everyday needs of people. They work year-round with meticulous, data-driven sorting processes. The kits they produce, therefore, go far beyond survival packs after disasters. They make kits for schools, for weddings, for graduations.
So we can have a look there. You haven't gone there, right? Please have a look. Yeah. Please look.
When we toured the Goonj Center, on one side, women workers were sorting donated items, not just clothes. There was donated paper, there was donated toys, boxes, school supplies, even cassette tapes. Those spools of tapes, along with the paper, were actually taken and woven into new fabrics that were to be turned into everything from bags, shawls, folders. Another room was abuzz with the sound of sewing machines, working non-stop, turning those woven materials into other things entirely. All useful, their uses dictated by the people and communities to which they were eventually going to go. In one wing of the Delhi center, Goonj takes discarded pieces of cloth, scraps from donated clothes too tattered to give away, and they make soft but very durable and colorful throw pillows. Public schools in India, like those in the Philippines, suffer from shortages in chairs and tables. Goonj workers had the idea. Why not make throw pillows so that students can at least be more comfortable as they sit on the floor or get down on their knees as they read or write crouched over the floor? The pillows have the added advantage of being cheaper, easier to transport, and easier to store. In another wing, Goonj women are earning not only wages but credits as they churn out washable sanitary napkins. These napkins, distributed in rural villages, provide essential hygiene and have empowered women to talk openly about issues long considered taboo. The MyPad project became a platform for women to support each other, breaking cultural norms that had silenced and marginalized them for generations. Again, it was the communities themselves that thought up these ideas and who ultimately design, produce, and offer up their innovations. From the sanitary pads to recycled graduation gowns, Anshu told me, it is the people who dictate what they need. Just like that farmer wearing a loose shirt of recycled potato sacks, it is the people who tell Goonj not just what they need, but what they want.
Now, a lot of people tells us that Goonj gives dignity to people. So you feel good about it, but you also object because our thought is that no one can give dignity to anyone. Dignity is on a self-respect is a part of our soul. We are born with that. It is a society which tells us whether I am black or white, rich or poor, upper caste or lower caste. But otherwise, all of us are born with the self-respect.
And then they don't receive the clothing or the goods or the services as handouts. They earn them by using their hands and labor to upcycle their own futures, building their own communities in the process. Just as a discarded piece of cloth can be repurposed into something valuable, so too are people's efforts transformed into something far greater. A platform of resilience and self-respect. On the other end of that relationship, meanwhile, the contributors of material to what they used to call donors are also put on equal footing with those that they used to call recipients or beneficiaries. In the Goonj model, very real economic transactions puts everyone on equal footing.
And that's our philosophy because we feel that if someone is giving us material, that person should also give us money. Because we are handling someone's wastage. So you should give money. So if a corporate is coming back with a truckload of short expiry material, we are giving them a chance to do something good in their books, have some good pictures and everything, and even settle down in their accounts in a better way. they must also pay for the logistics of it because we are taking care of that. I mean, when you give away, like in India, if someone comes to your home to pick up the garbage, absolute kitchen waste, you end up paying 100, 200 rupees. We are actually doing much more than that. So people should pay for it. That's and so far we have been able to survive with that.
That changes not just how we think about material poverty, but how we think about giving itself.
Because the whole argument was that if I give time, I'm a donor. If the community gives time, how come they are beneficiaries then? They should also be called donor. If I am putting in my skill, I am a donor. But the community is putting their skill, how come they are beneficiaries? So we said that instead of like donor or beneficiary, we should call everyone a stakeholder. Everyone has a stake. Everyone is contributing.
In truth, as Goonj shows, help is sustainable and it liberates only when it is a product of partnership and mutual respect. Instant emergency assistance has its importance and certainly it has its moments, but it should not blind us to the strength that people have in themselves and the importance of acknowledging that with every transaction.
So individuals in our case were very convinced because they saw a lot of respect to their material. What they were giving as charity or just giving away to us, they saw a lot of respect when they visit these centers. And everything else, what I showed you, is a surprise for many of them, even today.
Goonj does not just upcycle clothes and other people's discards for small items. They now collect material for communities to build their own rooms, their own roads, their own bridges, all still based on the same principle of letting people work for their own upliftment. Meenakshi still brings it back to where it all started.
So the interesting bit is we started with clothing as a basic need. But the common thread is that we realized as we worked more and more in the last 25 years, we understood that clothing is also a symbol of someone's dignity. And dignity is also a neglected need.
Thank you for joining us for this very special episode of Teka Teka. If you would like to learn more about Goonj and how you can support their mission, check out the links in our show notes. We would also, again, like to thank the Ramon Magsaysay Transformative Leadership Institute of the Ramon Magsaysay Awards Foundation for taking us along for this powerful story. PumaPodcast has a partnership with the Ramon Magsaysay Awards Foundation to bring you the inspiring words and works of other Ramon Magsaysay awardees over the past 66 years. Check out the Epic Vibes, Epic Spirit podcast of the Ramon Magsaysay Awards Foundation wherever you get your podcasts. And do continue to follow PumaPodcast and Teka Teka. We will have more stories of empowerment and Ramon Magsaysay's greatness of spirit in the coming months. Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with others who believe in the power of dignity. Again, for Teka Teka, ako po si Robbie Alampay, PumaPodcast. Maraming salamat po.